Have you ever looked at a cat, really looked at one, and wondered why we're so obsessed with them? Well, the answer might just be about 5,000 years old. Today we're going to unravel the incredible story of how the ancient Egyptians took an ordinary animal and turned it into a literal god. And believe it or not, the story starts with something much more down to earth than divine power.
So that's the big question, right? How does that even happen? How does an animal go from being, a simple pest controller to a divine being that's worshipped, mummified, and even protected by the death penalty? Well, to get the answer, we have to take a journey through thousands of years of Egyptian history.
And that journey, believe it or not, starts in a grain silo, not a temple. Before the cat was ever a god, it was a partner. It was an absolutely essential ally for the survival and really the prosperity of the entire Egyptian civilization.
What's just so incredible is how deep these roots go. We're talking way back to the very beginning of Egyptian civilization, around 3100 BC. That's when they first figured out how valuable wildcats were. And this wasn't just some passing trend. This was a relationship that grew and got more intense over thousands of years, eventually exploding into a nationwide cult. Okay, so let's break this alliance down. You're an agricultural society. Your entire life revolves around the Nile. Your biggest enemies? Rodents and pests. These things weren't just eating the grain, they were causing famine, they were spreading disease. And then the perfect solution just shows up. The African wildcat, a relentless, super efficient hunter. This wasn't just about saving a bit of wheat. This was about keeping the entire kingdom stable and fed.
So here's the key takeaway from this early stage. Cats were not just cute little pets. They were economic partners. They were guarding the grain that fed everybody, but they were also protecting sacred papyrus scrolls and temples from being destroyed by rats. So, in a very real way, they were the guardians of both food and knowledge.
Okay, so they were useful. Really useful. We get it. But that still doesn't explain the enormous leap from being a good pest controller to being worshipped as a god. How do you make that jump? This, right here, is where the story pivots from the granary to the temple. And the key to this whole divine transformation is one of Egypt's most beloved and important gods. Her name was Bastet, and her story is absolutely central to ours. So, meet Bastet. She actually started out as a fierce lioness goddess, but over time, her image totally softened into that of a domestic cat. For the Egyptians, she was the cat, the divine spirit of the animal, representing every single quality they admired in the creatures living in their homes.
And her job description was a huge deal in everyday life. She was the protector of your home, your family. She was a guardian against evil spirits and sickness. She was a goddess of fertility and motherhood. But she also had this huge cosmic role as a warrior who helped the sun god Ra fight off the serpent of chaos, like every single night. So she was both a nurturing mother and a total warrior.
And this, right here, this is the core belief that changes everything. Every single cat, the one sleeping by your fire, the one prowling in the alley, was seen as a physical, living, breathing incarnation of the goddess Bastet, right here on Earth. So harming a cat wasn't just animal cruelty, it was a direct insult to a very powerful goddess.
And as you can imagine, a belief that strong had some pretty serious real-world consequences. When a god literally walks among you, you're gonna create some intense laws and rituals to honor it. So let's look at what this actually meant for life, death, and the law in ancient Egypt.
This quote from the Greek historian Herodotus just says it all, doesn't it? The law was absolute. Killing a cat, even by accident, was a capital crime. It was a sacred duty for every single person to protect these animals. And get this, there are historical accounts of mobs of people killing those who harmed a cat.
And their reverence didn't stop when a cat's life ended. Oh no. When a family's cat died, the humans would shave their eyebrows as a sign of deep mourning. And the cat itself, it was given a burial fit for a noble. through this incredibly complex process that was almost identical to human mummification. We're talking ritual cleansing, being dried in salt for 40 days, and then wrapped in sacred linen with little amulets for protection in the afterlife.
Now, if you want to understand the sheer scale of this devotion, get a load of this number: 300,000. That is how many mummified cats were found in just one burial site. This wasn't some rare thing only royals did. This was a massive nationwide industry built on pure devotion.
But here's where the story takes a really shocking turn. In the late 1800s, a shipment of 19 tons of these sacred cat mummies was shipped from Egypt all the way to England. And what for? To be ground up and used as fertilizer. It's just a wild example of how drastically the value of something sacred can change over time.
Now, despite that really bizarre chapter, the cat's sacred status left a permanent mark on the entire world. The story doesn't end in Egypt, not by a long shot. So let's dive into the cat's lasting legacy.
The Egyptians actually tried to forbid anyone from exporting their sacred animals, but they were just too valuable and too good at their jobs. Phoenician traders, and later the Romans, who were completely fascinated by Egyptian culture, ended up spreading cats all across Europe. The little protector of the pharaohs was on its way to becoming a global phenomenon.
And this brings us to the final, and maybe the most fascinating point of all. That ancient reverence, that worship, it didn't just vanish. It has echoed down through the centuries, and it continues to shape how we see cats today in ways we probably don't even realize.
Seriously, think about it. Why do we associate cats with mystery, with magic? It comes straight from their status as guardians against evil spirits. That feeling we get that they're protectors of our homes, that's pure Bastet. And their independence, that dignified way they carry themselves that we admire so much, it's rooted in the profound respect they commanded as gods on earth. You could even argue that our modern obsession with cat videos on the internet is just the newest chapter in this ancient form of worship.
So, I'll leave you with this to think about. The next time you see a cat, just take a second and consider. Is our love for them really a modern thing? Or is it a cultural echo, a pharaonic legacy that's been passed down to us through thousands of years? Thanks for joining me for this one.